So we've done the background stuff, we've prioritized stuff, and we're like, this is what's important. And, we spend some time on that, but let's actually break it down. Let's actually go really clear, really granular with this stuff, right? So in this health and fitness realm, there's basically 3 things that you can focus on. Now, obviously, again, these branch off into a million different things, subsections, whatever, but there's basically 3 broad categories. We've got health, right? And we're going to do a further podcast in future on like what that actually means. But for now, let's just go health. We've got body composition, and we've got performance, right? And we'll just dig a little bit deeper into those. But those are basically the 3 areas that people have goals within. Now, you might have a specific goal for health. You might have a specific goal for body composition. You might have a specific goal for performance, right? And those, you might have multiple goals within that even, right? And those goals might not actually be synergistic. Some of them might be synergistic. Some of them might be oppositional. For example, you might be like, I want to squat 200 kilos, but I also want to be able to run a marathon, right? Like we might be better off allocating some time towards one of those, ticking it off the box, and then maintaining some of those fitness adaptations while we work on another, right? But the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we're clear on what is actually important to you. Like, why are you aiming towards that? What's the rationale? And we'll come back to that in a second as well, right? So when we're talking about this stuff, health, body composition, performance, right? Do you have goals for each of those things? Are they things that you're, looking to achieve? Do you have clear objectives with, this is what I mean when I say health? People will come to us and say, I want to be healthier. I want to feel healthier. But what does that actually mean for you, right? What does that look like for you? And again, we'll break that down into a framework in a second and in a future episode, right? Body composition, what do we mean by that? Performance, what do we mean by that, right? And then what we need to do as well is you need to do a little bit of a self-assessment when we're setting these goals, right? And it's a little bit different for when we're setting goals with a client because they obviously have us to help guide them, But if we're assuming right now you're doing this on your own here, you're sitting down, you're kind of going through your own goals, you're trying to sit down and write this stuff out, maybe it's on your phone, whatever. Like, you have to do a little bit of a self-assessment and go like, how do these goals relate to each other, right? How do they work together, right? Are you prioritizing one or the other? And maybe that doesn't fall in line with your overall prioritization scheme. Like, you might be like, I'm really focusing on body composition, but it's actually at the detriment of your health or your mental health or whatever, right? So you need to be aware of that stuff and actually understand what's going on, right? And are you aware of the trade-offs? And that kind of goes on what we're saying here. Like, if there's a trade-off to working on body composition, maybe your performance isn't going to be maximized. Are you okay with that for a section of time? Get to the body composition you want and then focus on performance? Like, are you aware of that, first of all? And then also, do you know how to map out a program in terms of this stuff? But it could be the same in your education or whatever. Do you know how to overcome those trade-offs, or do you know how to timeline this stuff out so that you can focus on one thing versus the other, right? And then there's other things that are kind of related to that as well. It's like, are you even in a position to work on certain goals at this time? Again, for example, you might be really motivated to work on your body composition because it's January and you're like, yeah, let's get after this. But maybe you're an accountant, right? And you're like, oh, I have a million fucking people coming to do their accounts in January, end of year accounts for the year before. And it's a really busy time of year, or, whatever other career, like, the health and fitness industry is a classic one. Like, obviously we're human as well. Personal trainers, coaches, nutritionists, whatever, they'll also be kind of motivated to work on their health or their fitness or whatever it is at this time of year. Maybe that's not the best time for them to be working on this stuff, because now all of a sudden they have an influx of more clients. They have an influx of, people talking to them on social media. They have, more people interested in them. And as a result, their stress is higher. Their work commitments are higher. And it's like, maybe this isn't the right time to spend some time on this other goal. You need to focus on business at this time, So we need to look at what are the trade-offs, how are you prioritizing the stuff? And as we said earlier on, sometimes you're going to need to focus on one thing to lay the groundwork for another thing. Again, maybe it's the first 6 months of the year, you need to focus on losing body fat in this context. And then the next 6 months, you're going to work on performance. You're going to work on really improving your health, and you're really going to improve your performance. And you're going to let body composition roughly stay where it's at, right? That could be something that's often something that we do with clients. We really focus on health and body composition initially, and then we work on, maintaining the body composition, and we focus on health and performance longer term. Now, that's our bias. That's generally how we work with stuff. And that's obviously not with everyone, but that's how you have to work. right? So do you have anything to say on that, Gary? Because I just want to break down these kind of categories a little bit more, just to kind of give a framework for people to be thinking about this when they're setting their goals, because obviously, again, their goals are relevant in this context to health and fitness. But do you have anything to say on that?
No, I think we can move forward with the categories, and then I have some more things I'd like to add in.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and again, we're going to go into a little bit more detail in a future episode on this in terms of like, what do we mean by health, right? Because there's multiple components to that. And again, I'm thinking about this from a framework of, or sorry, I should say a context of someone is coming to me and they're like, oh, I want to train with you guys. You get great results. I've seen your transformations, your testimonials, blah, blah, blah. And I'm talking to them and I'm going like, well, like, what are you actually aiming towards? What's the goals here? And they might have a hard time articulating that. They might have a time, even if I could speak, and they might have a hard time even conceptualizing what they mean by that. It might just be a feeling. It might just be a vague concept in their mind, but that's very hard to coach. That's very hard to aim towards, even for the individual. And it very often leads to disappointment because you're always grasping at something that's like a ghost. It's like, it's like the ether. You're never actually able to hold it because you haven't been very definitive in what you're actually trying to aim towards, right?